society as a whole, where we have reduced so much to sound bites, into little memes, into one-liners, you specifically have chosen not to take that path. You give your shiurim, you develop the ideas. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
So to say just because we live in a generation of sound bites, and we live in a generation where half of us have been diagnosed as ADD and ADHD, and all of the other wonderful definitions and diagnoses, which by the way have some milas. I gave a shiur last Shabbos, and there were a bunch of bachim from a particular yeshiva. They call themselves ADHD yeshiva. One of the bachim came over to me and he said, I'm ADHD, but you could have spoken another few hours. I said, how if you're ADHD? He said, listen, we ADHDs, we get bored fast when it's boring. But when somebody touches the spot, when you get into my soul and you're dealing with what I'm really dealing with, we could listen for 6 hours because we get turned on deeply. We underestimate people's intelligence and we underestimate people's depth. Here's the mistake that some of us teachers make, and that is, you have to really speak to the people. That means rich, beautiful, elegant, structure, depth, and most importantly, emotional relevance. You got to speak to their struggles. You got to speak to their heart. You got to speak to their soul. You got to speak to the reality they're living in, not some fictional reality that you would love them to live in, which everybody detaches from immediately. When we can do that, I think that, on the contrary, there's a significant, huge amount of people who really cherish true amkus, true depth.
TheYeshiva.net